comes up, and if it doesn't, then feel free to just reach out to me directly. Okay, so I am Valentina. I'm head of wellbeing at ARC, and what that means is I oversee all of our kind of wellbeing and cost of living focused things. So that's our student programs like Checkpoint, Wellness Warriors, Place to Be, all of our content and resources like the Wellness Roadmap. Actually, I should have got something so I forgot, but I'll make them available. And Stress Test Week, all of those things are now even more so than ever before. Lots of cost of living support. So particularly, we've seen a lot in this term, but that's going to expand even more next year. So there'll be lots of free food, like workshops and things like that, financial counselling. We're really expanding our wellbeing support to look at basic needs. I want to acknowledge that everyone will have their own experience with mental health and wellbeing, and that can be a very personal thing, while also being something that is present in everything that we do, in our teams, in the way that we work, in our studies. All of these things will affect our mental health and well-being. And do feel that you can bring that into discussions today. We're not going to be getting into the real nitty-gritty of personal things, but we are going to ask you to reflect on what influences your own well-being, because there's always lines with that will affect other people's well-being, and will help you understand how to manage yourself, but also how to manage others. Okay, so this is what we think of as, or what is kind of the definition of well-being. Yes, it's a very personal thing, but hopefully this applies across the board. So to have good well-being is to feel healthy and function well. And if we have good well-being, it helps us cope with the ups and downs of life. It doesn't mean that we don't have ups and downs, we will always have ups and downs, but it puts us in a more resilient position to cope with them. We can break, so you might break well-being down into different set of areas. This is how we break it down, but don't feel that this needs to be prescriptive. But it can be helpful to think that if our well-being is suffering, or if we want to be protective of our well-being, then to consider these 6 areas means that we're putting ourselves in really good stead. So we've got our emotional well-being, that's around how we feel on the everyday. Our social well-being, so that's kind of the quality of our relationships, our sense of connection, our sense of belonging. We've got our energetic well-being. You can also think of this as like the principle of balance. It's like the idea that are we directing our energy into kind of across different areas. So for example, our relationship with ourselves as well as our relationships with others, our time spent resting versus our time spent being productive, being more active. We've got our physical well-being, which is obvious. That's our kind of eat, sleep, move stuff. Cognitive well-being, our ability to execute. So our memory, our ability to focus, and all of those things that enable us to feel kind of on top of shit. Our existential spiritual well-being, so that's our kind of sense of meaning and purpose. Our feeling of being part of a bigger picture and kind of understanding what we do as part of that. For some people that might be religious, for other people it might be completely non-religious, but it's that overall sense of things being connected and being part of something bigger. Anyone have anything to say about that, or any thoughts on kind of those areas of well-being, or well-being, or that definition of well-being in general? Or does it feel like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, rings true? Sweet. So if the kind of idea is that all of those things influence where we sit on this mental health continuum. You might have seen this diagram before. Mental health is not a binary. It's not like yes I'm well or no I'm unwell. We will slide up and down this scale throughout our lives, throughout the week, throughout the day. It's constantly movable, and our habits and our practices, but also our external circumstances and what's going on in our lives will all influence this continuum. Some things we can control, like our habits. Some things we cannot control, like the cost of living and personal circumstances, events that might happen in our lives, things that could be going on politically in the world. We can't control as much. So the idea is that if we try and invest in our good well-being habits, we can stack the cards massively in our favor to stay up this end in mental health and make it a lot harder to then slip down into mental illness. It's not, if you end up at one side, as I said, it's not static. You're not kind of condemned to mental illness if you experience mental illness at some point in your life. We will move up and down throughout the course of our lives. Does anyone have an idea of what proportion of young people aged 16 to 24 will experience mental illness or mental ill health in any 1 year? Anyone guess? 80%?
I'm going to say 40.
Maybe 40? Anyone else? Anyone in between or more extreme than that? Okay, so it's about, statistically, supposedly it is about 40%, about 2 in 5. However, you're not far off because there's a lot of evidence to say that that's not representative. So that kind of represents people who will go to a GP, will receive support for mental ill health, when actually there's a lot more people who are going through it quietly, silently, and not receiving support. So the number is probably actually closer to 50%, if not higher. This is why we're doing this training, because we want to make it easier to look after yourselves, but also look after others. So we're going to do a little bit of an activity. In your handouts, you've got 2 tables. There's your wellbeing plan and your team wellbeing plan. If we start on your wellbeing plan, you can start filling in some of these boxes. There will be blank areas, but the idea is that we're not going to cover all of it today. But I would really, really encourage you to take some time when you're at home and you also just kind of have a bit more mental space, and it's not the end of the day, to reflect on these things and make a plan. I can't underestimate, or you can't underestimate, and I can't underemphasize how important doing something like this is. When we feel shit, we are kind of lateral thinking, and our ability to plan and step back and see the big picture like this is impaired. So if we make these kinds of plans when we're feeling well, then all we have to do is do what we're told. When we then feel shit and we need a little bit of support and some ideas from ourselves. So, with that in mind, take just 1 minute completely on your own, don't talk to anybody else, and write down in the situation, but also the behaviour. Start with the behaviour, but then you might be able to link a situation to it. What are the warning signs that I'm not okay? So like, normally before we get to the crisis point, there are some early warning signs that we're going down that track. Take 1 minute to yourself and start writing out what they look like. to take a bit of time to discuss with each other. You don't have to go into really personal details, but just have a chat with people next to you. Do you have any of the same early warning signs? Is there anything that you think is really common or more niche? Just have a little chat and see what you can find out. We'll just have a couple of minutes.
I feel like looking at the areas as well, like that is the really struggles. I do feel like I have the weaknesses, but also I'm like, sometimes I'm just stressed with a very reason to be, like it's very real. Oh, we're taking care of it.
Because you're going to have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get involved, and we need to know how to be there.
Do it for me. Do it for me.
So, yeah. I feel like I struggle with like taking time for myself, and I'm overwhelmed because I'm like, oh no, I need to be like working, I need to be doing stuff. And then I also, at the same time, struggle with delegating. Like, but I do it myself, and then I'm like, not because I'm stressed.
Yeah, yeah.
Warning signs on like, really understand such like messages and calls like this.
All day.
Or like, I'm a very shy person, so I kind of like going on about like group settings. That's like, oh, queen stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep it down.
Deep it down. Do you have any warning signs of when you're stressed?
I feel like it's just the manifestation. I'm like, oh, I'm not stressed. I don't get like a little early, like, I'm just like, oh, I know my stress response is very much like, often like struggling to eat. Stuff like,
Yeah.
It's a lot to eat, so I eat so.
Yeah.
sort of stress.
Yeah, actually. No,
It's sort of stress where it's like, oh, I've got so much to do.
Okay, we're gonna keep chatting, but we're just gonna come back together and meet. Okay. I'd love to hear from each person, if that's okay. If you could just introduce yourself, so your name, your pronouns, and what your role is. And just let us know what came out of this discussion. So it might be one of your early warning signs, it might be a pattern or a theme that you saw amongst you guys. Who wants to start? real work. Do you not feel like you want to share what you wrote down? That's okay, you don't have to. That's fine. You can also come up with, it doesn't need to be about you personally, then maybe just an idea of what it might look like in other people. So what might make you see, if you saw something in someone else, you might think, oh, maybe I should check in, maybe there's an early warning sign that their mental health was like taking a bit of a moment. Anyone want to start? I can start if that helps. Okay, so for me, I know that an early warning sign for me is when I start to lose the ability to see humor in things. So when I start to lose that sense of playfulness, I don't find things as funny, and I just notice myself getting quite serious and tense. And that for me is like, oh, hang on. I'm losing perspective here. I'm not able to laugh. Who wants to go next? Again, it doesn't have to be about you. It can just be what you might think is a warning sign for someone?
One of my friends will like stop talking to people or try and avoid talking to people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, withdrawing, like socially, sometimes from uni life, even from like the things that you find fun. Definitely, that's a big one. What else?
Maybe changes in eat or sleep schedules.
Yeah, for sure. Changes in eating, sleeping, like movement, like those kind of basic needs changes and reflective changes in weight and appearance, for sure. What else? What else might we see that could be an early warning sign? Come on. I know it's the end of the day. But
Avoiding messages or responsibilities or just like general tasks as well.
Yeah, totally. Avoiding messages and responsibilities, general tasks, kind of like avoiding things that can feel overwhelming, like things feeling more overwhelming, and sometimes also the brain fog that can come when we're feeling a bit shit or tired, and it then becomes much more intimidating to do these tasks because it feels like it requires so much of us. Okay, I'll put some up on the screen that can be quite common. So mood changes, quite literally just noticing, and that can be like not just feeling lower or observing someone feeling sadder, but it can also be more erratic moods. So going up and down a lot, being less regulated. Lack of interest in things that you normally would be interested in and like. As you said, changes in sleeping habits. Confusion or difficulty concentrating, so that feeling of just like you can't quite like harness your mind, it's jumping around all over the place. Feeling sad, increase in substance use, withdrawing, as we mentioned, anxiety, just generally increased anxiety. Sometimes we don't know what it's about, but we just know that we feel more anxious, and that can be a sign of bigger things. Fatigue, feeling worn out, appetite or weight changes, as we mentioned. Poor personal hygiene, so those kinds of like basic needs being neglected, feeling irritable or angry. I know that one of my mental health is great, and I'll go between feeling tense and irritable or then just being overly emotional about it. Okay, cool. So we've got a bit of an idea of what early warning signs might be in someone else, but also in ourselves. We want to be able to recognize when that's happening and look after ourselves. So in your wellbeing plan, you can start filling out these two columns, so the management and prevention columns. So management is the like, when I'm already not okay, what are the kinds of things that I can do to move back towards feeling better, feeling more on top of things. And with prevention, the kind of habits that if I pay good attention to and invest in now, then I've put myself in good stead. So take a minute or so on your own to just fill out what works for you, and then we can just come straight back together and discuss as a big group. And it can be, we can discuss what works for you, but also what you've seen work for your friends or what you imagine could work. you got? What kinds of things can we do to prevent ourselves from getting to a point of low well-being or to look after ourselves when we are there?
Get off my phone.
Yes, oh my god, get off phone, get like outdoors, that's a big one. It's like just going outside. Yeah, for sure. What else?
Get proper rest.
Get proper rest, yeah. It's such an easy thing to think we can just do without. We're like, yeah, I don't have time, I have to do this, and this, and we think that doing all of those things will make us feel better than going to sleep, but we're much better able to do things efficiently if we get rest. What else?
I feel like when you're doing like some kind of work, I found sometimes if you switch with someone, what
Mhm.
you're doing helps out. So like, say you've been managing something for a week and getting stressed about it, and I've been managing something else to sort of go, I'll take care that you have to go to this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. Switching tasks and kind of doing something different, having a bit of novelty.
Yeah.
That helps me engage, makes things feel a bit fresher,
Yeah.
and you get that perspective away from whatever you have been struggling with. Yeah, for sure. What else? What else can we do to look after ourselves?
Go outside, take a walk.
Exactly, that's nice to walk. Oh my gosh. It makes a big difference. It's so simple, and we forget that we are animals and that we aren't really meant to be in cages. And being outdoors is just a really simple way to regulate the nervous system. If you're interested in it, there's a lot of research around